One of, if not the single most pervasive issue for OF agencies right now is just models leaving agencies. The reason that I'm making this video right now and not in my usual polished format is because a colleague of mine just lost their biggest model. And my colleague, their agency, they worked themselves to the bone with this model. They built her up from nothing to like high six figures a month, like 500K plus. They had a great working relationship with her. They were working on new creative stuff, branching out into new ideas. Um, and she just decided to jump ship because a higher profile agency made an offer that she thought looked better on paper. And unfortunately, my colleague did not have an airtight contract with this model. And so there was no reason for her not to leave. There was no friction for her not to leave for what she perceived to be greener pastures. And I see this in a ton of agencies that I consult with and just speaking to other agency owners. Most agencies lose their top earners, not because they failed to produce results or because they did something wrong, but because the models are, to put it politely, fickle, and their contracts are weak or non-binding, or worse, they don't have contracts at all. And so I'm going to walk you through Milky's talent management contract line by line. I'm going to show you how to plug the legal potholes that could potentially kill your business. And I'm going to give you the exact clauses that I use to make sure that if your models do decide to leave, it's a minor hiccup and not a total fucking catastrophe. I spent a lot of money, like thousands of dollars, on business lawyers to draft and review these documents with me. But if you stick around until the end of the video, I'm going to give you a PDF of the exact contract that I'm about to go over with you to use for your agency for free. And before we start, I want to address a really common misconception, which is that a lot of agencies think that contracts are like this big, scary thing, or like a hurdle or objection that they have to overcome, or they're afraid to present contracts to models because they think it's going to like mess up a deal, or the contracts, or the model's going to get scared and they're not going to want to sign the contract or something. Get that shit out of your head. Contracts are not an optional thing in business, period. A contract is a document that clearly defines the expectations from each party, and it protects all parties involved from misbehavior on the part of the other parties. It should be literally the foundation of every business relationship you have, period, end of sentence. Every single model you sign needs a contract. Every contractor or employee you hire needs a contract. Every partner in the company needs a contract. I don't care if the model is your wife and your business partner is your brother. You need contracts that clearly and unambiguously define the nature of the business relationship, the expectations from all of the parties involved, and handling any situations that are likely to occur, especially major events like termination of the contract. Milky has never had a single model terminate a contract with us. I'd like to believe that's because that we provide a really high quality service to our clients. But if a model did ever decide to leave or call it quits or switch agencies or whatever the case might be, our talent management contract is designed to protect both the model and our business from harm. There are no shady clauses or fine print. I'm just going to say that now. There's nothing here that's like, I'm going to screw you over. This contract is just as beneficial for the models as it is for us. And I personally go through this contract with Milky's models with the exact same level of detail as I'm about to go through with you. And guess what? It's not a scary conversation. It doesn't have to be a scary conversation. It should be a basic conversation that starts every business relationship. So essentially, like I said, I'm going to go through this line by line. Let me just move a couple things around on my screen. The highlights in green are going to be the parts that you can customize for your agency. So a lot of basic modular stuff like agency name, address, creator, blah, blah, blah. First section is services provided by the agency. So this is what we are doing for the client, which is in this case, the model. 1.1, in exchange for compensation to the agency set forth in this agreement, the agency agrees to provide the following services. A, content strategy and planning, development of a comprehensive content plan tailored to the creator's brand and audience, including but not limited to scheduling, themes, and content formats. The scope of agency services may be found in Addendum A. You're going to see references to Addendum A. We're going to cover that later in the video. There's two addendums. There's Addendum A, which covers the scope of services that I provide for the models. And then there's Addendum B, which covers payment structure and revenue share split and all that fun stuff. These might not be services that your agency provides, so make sure that you review this section carefully and you're not promising anything that you are not offering. But for us, we do content strategy and planning. We do social media strategy and management, so creation, management, and optimization of social media profiles, engagement strategies, and growth tactics across all agreed upon platforms is basically the same thing as A. Scheduling and posting, coordination and management of content release schedules to maximize audience engagement and platform performance. If you are not posting content for your models, if you're not in charge of scheduling for your models, if you just have, like, if you sign a model and you're like, you just post on Instagram whenever you feel like it, that shit is lazy. Don't fucking do that. Take over scheduling for your models. It's a very basic service that you should offer. And it also helps you ensure that content is being posted at times that are best for performance. That your model is delivering content on a timely schedule, which we're going to get into in just a second. It's just a basic, like, it's so easy. Just use Metricool or any of the other 100,000 fucking social media scheduling tools out there. It drives me crazy when agencies don't schedule stuff for their models. It's a super basic service. It's a really simple value add. It makes your offer stickier, and it makes it less likely that your models are going to leave because you're a lazy dumbass. So next we have messaging and interaction. Management of fan interactions, including responding to it. This is basically just like this is saying that we're going to communicate with your fans on OnlyFans and on your social media platforms. If you do stuff like ManyChat, DM automation, whatever, I'm not going to get into all of that, but this basically just says we can talk to fans on your behalf. And customer service, addressing inquiries, feedback, and issues from fans and followers to maintain a positive public image and community relations. Similar kind of clause here. All right, on to section 2. Expectations from creator. This is incredibly important. So many agencies that I talk to, they complain about their creators being lazy. They don't produce content, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? When I look at their contracts, there's nothing in the contracts that states that the creator has to deliver any kind of content. There's no expectation set. There's no delivery timeline. There's no schedule. There's no, like, you have to deliver 10 pieces of content every week or whatever the case might be. However you want to set it, this can be modular. But, like, no shit, your models aren't producing content. You actually haven't told them to. Like, they're not contractually obligated to do anything. And that's a big part of why I wanted to make this video is, like, in order for people to behave, I believe I'm a very low trust person. I don't expect that anybody is going to behave rationally in my self-interest. I generally don't even expect that people are going to rationally behave in their own self-interest unless there is a document or some kind of, some kind of punishment or consequence for them not behaving properly. I'm going to assume that they're not going to behave properly. So this set of clauses basically just says, hey, here are the expectations that we have from you as the creator. These are the things that you have to deliver. And if you fail to deliver these, you're in breach of contract and there's going to be consequences. So let's go through that. 2.1, creator agrees to 2.1a, provide the prescribed amount of content per month as specified by the agency in accordance with the quality standards and guidelines provided by the agency. This is an important one. This can be a separate document or you can outline it in the contract. I prefer to put it in this contract. I left it out because it's going to be different for every agency. But let's say I want the model to produce 20 reels per month or whatever, or 30 reels per month. More realistically for my agency, it's going to be like 90 reels per month. To the quality standards that I want, I put that in the contract. Like, put it in the contract. Tell the model, and then review it with the model and say, hey, this is what I expect of you. If you don't think you can do this, don't sign the fucking contract or get better. The specific number of content pieces and nature of content will be determined based on both an initial consultation with the creator and strategy meetings as outlined in section 2.1b, and may be subject to change with mutual written agreement of the parties. So now we're going to move on to B. Participate in regular strategy meetings to align on content direction, brand strategy, and performance goals. Frequency and length of strategy meetings shall be a minimum of 30 minutes every 2 weeks. This can be whatever you want, but I strongly recommend that you have meetings with your models. Another issue that I see is agencies will sign a model and then they just never talk to the model again. And if you don't develop relationships with the models, if you don't have good working relationships with the models, or you're just checking in sporadically or however you're currently handling it, having meetings at a regular cadence with a fixed time where you talk about stuff that's related to the business, it just helps keep the model motivated. It helps them make sure that you guys are on the same page. I actually meet with my models more frequently than 30 minutes every 2 weeks. I do a lot of on-site shoots. I understand not everybody has that luxury, but just stay in contact with your models, build good working relationships. This should be really basic stuff, but a lot of people that I talk to just totally miss out on it. So, and then C, grant the agency access to necessary equipment, resources, accounts, and information to perform the services effectively. This is an important one, although it's kind of just a given in every. You'll notice that a lot of the stuff in this contract is well, that's obvious. And yeah, no shit. Like the most obvious stuff should still be contractually enforced. If I don't have access to the model's Instagram account or TikTok account or OnlyFans account, how the fuck am I supposed to do my job? So yeah, do like include all that stuff in the contract. This is basically just a clause that says we need to have access to everything that you have access to in order to do our work. Okay, third section is term and termination. So term, the initial term of this agreement shall commence on the effective date and continue for 365 days, the initial term. Renewal. This is an important one. Upon expiration of the initial term, this agreement will be automatically renewed for additional periods of 365 days unless and until terminated by either of the parties. So this is a 1-year contract. There's two parts of this that are important. First, it establishes the initial term, 365 days, right? So if a model signs with me, they're with me for a year, at least.
The second, arguably even more important part that my dumb ass forgot to record because I'm getting over head cold is the renewal. So the contract renews automatically. You can see it in the language here, renewed for additional periods of 365 days unless and until terminated by either of the parties. That means that an action is required to terminate the contract, and the renewal is the default condition of the contract. So if you sign the contract with the model on January 1st, 2025, on January 1st, 2026, the contract automatically renews. No action is required by either party. Action is only required for like manual termination of the contract. And that means that every contract renewal period is seamless. You don't have to have a conversation or have the model sign a new contract or anything like that. It just happens automatically as a default condition. This was a really nice thing that I had the lawyers add in because it's just nice. It makes it seamless.
Now let's move on to termination. The agency may terminate this agreement immediately for cause if the creator fails to deliver the agreed content by specified deadlines or breaches any material term of this agreement. In the event of failure to deliver the agreed content by the specified deadline, the agency may impose a penalty fee based on the costs incurred by the agency for labor related to the creator's work. This clause says, if you do not do the work that we have asked and that is contractually outlined, we can penalize you. We can charge you fees. Guess what? I've never had a model not deliver work. I don't think it's because there's like a threat of a fee, but like it puts it in their head that like, this is serious. This is my job. I have to do this. And if I don't, then there's going to be a consequence. I've never even had to have this conversation with a model of like, hey, are you going to produce enough content this week? I don't think that that's because of this clause, but it's important to back up. Like the point of a contract is for both parties to say, this is what I want out of this relationship. This is what's going to happen if I don't get it. Very simple. It's not like, it's just a negotiation between two parties. And I don't understand why people get so scared by this stuff. These are not hard conversations to have. B, the creator may terminate this agreement with 60 days written notice, provided all outstanding obligations have been fulfilled. So basically this is saying, yes, the term is for 365 days, but the model can leave. However, the model has to give 60 days notice, written notice, meaning if the model wants to leave, you have 2 months to wind down operations. You have 2 months to extract revenue. You have 2 months to find another model to replace that model. You have 2 months to do everything that you need to do to make sure that your organization is in a good position at the time that the model rotates out. And the model has 2 months of lead time, basically, to either, if presumably she's leaving because she's going to work with another agency or something like that, you guys can transition services, whatever. It gives both parties 60 days, 2 full months to figure out what's next. This is super important. And I think this is a basic thing that like I've never seen in another contract, but this is very common. This is like super normal for agency contracts. This should be like a default. And again, at the end of this video, you're going to get this contract. So hopefully you will use it accordingly. And then the last part of termination is C. Upon termination, the creator shall cease to use any of the agency's proprietary materials, including strategies, employees, contacts, and intellectual property. This just means the model can't take any of the things that you've given her. So whether that's designs, whether that's like specific technologies or like tools that you guys have developed in-house, strategies, whatever is proprietary to your agency, the model doesn't get to take that with her to her next agency, or if she decides to go independent or whatever, just protects you from getting your stuff stolen. All right, on to intellectual property and image rights. Section 4. 4.1, ownership. The creator retains ownership of their image and intellectual property created during the term of this agreement, subject to the licensing terms herein. This is an important protection for the creator. This is something you should offer your creators. This just means that the creator, you don't own their image, right? And fundamentally, what the creator-agency relationship is the model is lending you her image in order for you to create a stream of revenue. But the model's image belongs to her, right? And so what that means is you don't get to just after the model leaves, you don't get to just continue to use her image in perpetuity unless she grants you permission to. And that's going to be covered in another clause. Basically, you don't own the model, right? If the model decides to leave, she gets to keep all of the rights to her image, all of her creative property, anything that she's come up with herself, she keeps all of that. And she should. 4.2, licensing. The creator grants the agency a non-exclusive, royalty-free worldwide license to use, reproduce, distribute, and display their image and content for the purposes outlined in this agreement. This basically just says the model is giving you permission to use her image for commercial purposes, which you need that permission in order to promote her. Simple, very basic. 4.3, promotional use. The agency is permitted to use the creator's image and content for promotional purposes, including advertising, marketing, and public relations, during and after the term of this agreement in perpetuity. So what this is saying is, and the creator has the right to rescind the agency's right to use their image for the promotional purposes after the expiration of this contract. If you sign a big model, let's say you sign Camilla, whatever, let's dream big. You sign Camilla. After the expiration, and Camilla decides to leave, after the expiration of this content, you can still say, we used to work with Camilla or whatever, unless Camilla specifically says, no, you can't say that. So you can use this clause applies not just to promotion for the model, but promotion for your agency in the event that you want to use the model's image to promote for your agency. This is just a nice little clause that I like to include. I don't think most of us want to publicly associate with our models. That would be kind of counterproductive. As an OnlyFans agency, we generally don't want people to know that we exist. But in the event that you do, or maybe there's some kind of change in the industry, or you have an opportunity to do some personal branding and the model's okay with it, you get to do that. Great. This is not a particularly important clause. You can remove it if you want to. And then 4.4, I highlighted this because it's so fucking important. The agency maintains ownership and use of all social media accounts created for the purposes of promotion as prescribed by this agreement, even after the termination of this agreement. This means if you created the Instagram account for the model, if you created the TikTok account for the model, if you created the X account, if you created the OnlyFans account, if you, the agency, created the account, you keep it after the termination of the contract. This is a big one because I've seen so many agencies that are yeah, the model makes, 5 Instagram accounts, and then the model leaves and she gets to take 5 Instagram accounts. You worked to make those Instagram accounts presumably successful, right? The model provided the content, but you did everything else. The model should not get to keep those contracts or those accounts after the termination of the contract. You own those accounts, so you can repurpose them for maybe other models. You can do whatever is most beneficial for your agency. You can give them to the model if you want to, but you own those accounts. This is an important clause, especially for big creators that have, if you have a creator that has multiple 100K plus Instagram accounts and they bail, those are useful accounts. You can still use those for other creators or whatever you want to do. So yeah, this is an important contract. This clause is more agency protective. And again, if you want to give them to the model, if you're leaving on good terms, great. But this allows you, this just says you have ownership of those. Even though it's her image, you own the actual account, the underlying property. Okay, on to section 5, compensation and payment. Most of this will actually get covered in Addendum B, but we'll go over this really quick. The creator will receive a fixed salary or percentage of the net revenue generated from content and fan interactions managed by the agency across all platforms operated by the agency. Net revenue is defined as the total revenue minus platform fees, taxes, and other direct expenses. Revenue share for this agreement shall be found in Addendum B. That's what I just said. Adjustments. The revenue share or salary as outlined in Addendum B may be adjusted if the creator elects to handle specific tasks independently. So this clause is, you can keep it, take it or leave it. This is not a super important one, but basically what this is saying is that you can change the context of Addendum B, which is the payment schedule and the rev share, if the model wants to take on more services. So this has never applied to my agency. We're super full service. So we do everything for the models other than the actual, in some cases we are actually on there for on-site production, but like other than the actual like OnlyFans content creation, we have our hands in everything. So this doesn't really apply. I just included this for anybody who has a more flexible like relationship with their models. And this basically just says like you can change the rev share agreement if both parties agree, if the model decides that she wants to take on more responsibility and you want to take a smaller rev share, whatever. 5.3 payment schedule. Payments will be made weekly via an agreed upon payment method to either the agency or the creator based on the terms outlined in Addendum B. All parties must provide accurate and up-to-date payment information. Obviously, everybody wants to get paid. Got to make sure that you have up-to-date payment information. But the important part of this clause is weekly. I've seen a bunch of agencies, they do like monthly or whatever. And then, the model will terminate the contract, or they don't have a contract, the model leaves. And then that entire month of revenue that you generated for the model, they just keep it. Don't do that. That's bad. A weekly payment schedule basically is like a guarantee of continuous cash flow. It makes it easier to manage your P&L. It makes sure that you always have money flowing in so that you can upgrade your services, incorporate new technologies, use money for just capital expenditure in general. I like to have weekly cash flow. You can do bi-weekly. I would never do monthly. Weekly or bi-weekly is the way to go. You can change this to whatever you want. This is modular. I'm actually going to highlight it in green here, but I like weekly. That's just me. 5.4 payment structure, details regarding the structure. Yeah, Addendum B. 5.5 failure to pay invoices. Failure of the creator to pay invoices on the agreed upon schedule outlined in Addendum B entitles the agency to seek injunctive relief or damages. The parties agree that reasonable damages is the amount of the most recent month of net earnings by the creator on OnlyFans. This says if the client fails to pay you as per your agreement, you can take her to court and she owes you at least the most recent month of net earnings from the creator on OnlyFans. Going to court is expensive. Ideally, you don't want to have to take your model to court. But if you've got a model that's producing, 200, 500K a month or whatever, even 100K, 50K a month, it's a lot of money. It's probably worth it to take them to court if it comes to that. And you have it in writing in your contract. This is at minimum what the model owes me. It's very clearly outlined. So neither party can be like, well, I didn't know that, or, whatever. Whatever bullshit they want to throw at you. This just protects you. This is another one of those clauses that protects the agency from the model acting up. All right, so now we're on to section 6, which is access, security, and transferability. The creator shall provide the agency with all necessary access to social media and content platforms to perform the services outlined in this agreement. This is kind of just a rehash of an earlier clause, but basically reinforcing the idea that we need access to all of your stuff in order to do our job. Confidentiality. The parties agree to maintain the confidentiality of not all non-public information disclosed during the term of this agreement and for a period of 2 years thereafter, including business strategies, financial information, and personal data of fans and followers. This is one of those ones that protects both, right? If the model can't go out there and talk shit about your agency or leak information or yada, 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 and you can't do the same thing to the model, right? This is just protections for both parties. If it's an ugly breakup, so to speak, neither party has the right to speak negatively about the other or share business secrets, or, you can't tell all of the model's fans oh, actually you've been talking to Pakistanis for the last 6 months or whatever. Basic shit. If you're a professional, that shouldn't even be an idea in your head, but you never know. And this just helps. I think this is reassuring for the model in that sense. Okay. 8, indemnification. Creator will defend, indemnify, and hold harmless agency and its affiliates. Sorry, I can't read right now. And each of their respective officers, directors, employees, agents, successors, and permitted assigns each an agency indemnity from and against all losses, damages, liabilities, deficiencies, actions, judgments, interests, awards, penalties, fines, costs, or expenses of whatever kind, including reasonable attorney's fees, the cost of enforcing any right to indemnification hereunder, and the cost of pursuing any insurance providers arising out of or resulting from any third-party claim against any agency indemnity arising out of or resulting from creators' failure to comply with any of its obligations under this agreement. Very fancy clause that basically says,
if a third party sues or makes a claim against the agency because the creator did not follow the rules in this agreement, basically if the creator messes up and the agency gets in trouble because of it, the creator is going to be responsible for protecting the agency and paying for all of those costs. This is not a necessary clause, but I find that is like a corner case that might come up, maybe a disgruntled fan, or if there's like a lawsuit against the creator or something like that, you don't want to get caught up in that.
Again, this isn't about like, you don't want to frame the conversation that you have when you're having this conversation with the model about the contract. You don't want to frame this as like a punishment, but it's about establishing like, hey, there are going to be serious consequences if you do not adhere to our agreement, which is how agreements should work. This shouldn't be groundbreaking, but for some of you, it will be. Governing law. This agreement shall be governed and construed with, governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of, important to note, this contract is for the United States. I am not a legal expert in my own territory, let alone in Europe, the Middle East. A lot of the companies that I know are in this space are not based in the United States. So, if you decide to use this contract and you are not a United States based business entity, please make sure that a lawyer from your country reviews it, or I don't know, pass it through ChatGPT or whatever. Just make sure, like, I don't know the laws of other countries. I don't know if any of this legal language is going to make sense. Make sure that if you use it in a language other than English, that you use a really good translator and you have somebody who's a fluent or native in that language review it. But yeah, for United States agencies, this is very simple. The state that you're incorporated in and enforceable solely within the courts of the county that you're incorporated in, without regards to its conflict of law principles. And then you're going to have also, just an FYI, this doesn't necessarily have to be the state or county that you're incorporated in. It can be the state or county that you want to have the court case in. So, like, for instance, if you're incorporated in Nebraska, but you want to, if you go to trial or something, you would rather have the trial in New York State or something like that. You would put New York State and whatever county in New York that you want to do the court case in. Just a minor thing that hopefully will never come up for any. Okay, section 10 is miscellaneous. This just goes over some last few clauses. We're almost into the good part. So 10.1 entire agreement. This agreement and the attached addendums constitutes the entire agreement between the parties and supersedes all prior or contemporaneous understandings, agreements, or representations. This basically says every conversation that we had before we signed this contract is bullshit. Any promises that were made by the model or the agency prior to this contract are non-binding. This contract is everything. If it's not in this contract, it didn't happen. So make sure that you include everything that, if you use this contract as a template, which I believe that you should, and I've covered as many corner cases and like edge cases as I possibly can, include, and all of the common things that I think might occur. But everything that is in this contract is the agreement. So if it's not in the contract, it's not in the agreement, or it's, it could be part of, you can have separate contracts for separate things or whatever. But in terms of the basic like legal relationship between you and the model, if it isn't in this contract, then it might as well not have happened. So this is an important one to keep in mind. Amendments. This agreement may only be amended or modified in writing, signed by both parties, meaning that if at some point you want to make a change to this contract after you and the model have already signed it and initiated it, you can do that, but it has to be agreed upon in writing and signed by both parties. You would probably just do it as an addendum to this contract. 10.3 severability. If any provision of this agreement is found to be unenforceable, the remaining provisions shall continue in full force and effect. This basically just means that, like, if for some reason something in this contract is wrong, or like the legal language doesn't hold up, or whatever, in a specific clause, the rest of the contract is still binding. So that shouldn't ever come up. Everything in this contract has been reviewed by myself and a team of business lawyers, and I've had other third parties review it. It should be pretty bulletproof. But if you decide that you want to add anything into this contract and you don't use the correct legal language or whatever the case might be, every other provision in this contract is still enforceable. 10.4 is counterparts. The parties may execute this agreement in counterparts, each of which shall be deemed an original, and all of which taken together shall constitute one and the same instrument. I'm not going to go into the rest of this because it's not that important. Basically, this means that if you make copies of this, everybody who owns a copy of this document has it's all considered like the same document. So if you like something that I do with models that I work with in person, I'll have a paper copy of the document rather than doing like a DocuSign. The model gets a copy. I get a copy for my records. Both of the contracts are valid and legally binding. I just have assigned 2 copies so that she has a physical copy. I have a physical copy. Not that important to have a clause. Sorry, I'm getting over a nasty cold. In witness here, and then this is just, where the model and you sign the contract. You're going to put your agency name here, creator name here, the name of the legal entity, model name, email, whatever. Very simple. Now we're going to get into the addendums. This is Addendum A, which is the statement of work. This document is very important because this outlines all of the expectations of both parties. You could include this in the main contract. I chose to have Addendum A, the statement of work, and Addendum B, the compensation agreement, as separate parts of the document. They're still just as binding. But I chose to do this because that way you have a whole section of the contract that is dedicated to one thing, which is, rather than all of the general like legal ramblings and making sure that all of the clauses are enforceable, yada, yada, yada. The addendums are each dedicated to one specific thing. This is the statement of work, which is the expectations of both parties. So you've got your modular little agency address, creator, create address, effective date thing here. So the agency's work shall include. So this is everything that I'm promising to do for the client. I've highlighted this in yellow because not only is it very important, it's also modular. You should change this based on what you're going to do for the model. If you offer more services, include them here. There's more that I do for the model than this, but this is like the basic contractual, like this is the bare minimum. So this can be whatever makes sense for your agency. For us, it's the development and deployment of a marketing strategy for the creator, management of all social media and OnlyFans accounts associated with the creator, all communications with fans and subscribers of the creator, editing, drafting, and scheduling all content provided by the creator, except where it is necessary for the creator to act. This is just included for like, if there's specific like trial reels, we can't schedule. Certain types of stories or like carousels with music, we can't schedule through Metricool. So we will sometimes have the creator do, and like organic, like real-time posting or live streams, stuff like that. That is where the except where it is necessary for the creator to act comes in. We schedule and handle basically everything else. Not something that necessarily needs to be included in your contract, although I do recommend it. You should be taking on as many services as you can for your models. It makes your offer way stickier and they like you more and they're more likely to stick around. Just saying. The creator's work shall include the delivery of all initial content required to establish new social media and OnlyFans pages in a timely manner, the delivery of all content required by the agency in a timely manner and according to a standard of quality as established by the agency, and the delivery of custom content upon request by the agency within terms agreed to by the creator. So again, this is modular. Whatever your expectations for your creators are, set them high, guys. Like your creator, you'll be surprised. Your creators are going to rise to the expectations that you set for them. And that you enforce for them. So like ask for a lot, ask for as much work as you would do if you were in the model's position. Because, and like, outline it, make it reasonable. Obviously don't set impossible standards just so you can like poke them with a stick, and like threaten them with legal action or whatever. Don't be an asshole, but like set reasonable human expectations. Like, making a reel and a carousel every single day is like a bare minimum. This is what you should expect of your models. If your model is not willing to put in that work, you shouldn't even be in the stage where you're discussing having a contractual relationship. Like don't work with lazy models. This is unrelated to the contract thing, but just like don't put yourself in a position where you're working with people that are not worth working with. I stress that in pretty much all of my videos, but worth reiterating here. Upon initiation of this agreement, effective date, the agency shall be provided sole administrative access to all accounts associated with the creator for the duration of the agreement. Important one. The creator doesn't have access to her accounts unless you specifically grant her permission to. I don't want the creator, like for Milky's case, I want the creator to be as hands-off as possible. I want them focusing on what they do best. Creating, making the content. We handle everything else. We handle video editing. We handle pre-production, scheduling, posting, all that fun stuff. Like on the social media side, we do way more behind the scenes chatting and all that stuff. But on the social media side, you should want, and you should have, the agency should have as much control as is humanly possible over every single element of the promotional process, including sole proprietorship and access to the accounts. The model shouldn't need to get involved in the day-to-day. Like, that's not her job. It's not what, the more that she's able to like meddle, and the more that she's like looking at chats and asking questions and are you doing things such and such way? Oh, this fan like had a negative thing to say. The more involved the model is, the worse it is for everybody involved. Because they're fundamentally not going to understand everything that you need to do. Like, you have the you have the kind of like God's eye view over everything. So you know everything that's going on. The model should be out of that loop as much as possible. She should really be focused on the creative process. So I would stress that, like, put yourself in a position where everybody can be successful and everybody is focused on doing the things that they are best at. The model is not best at managing her business. That's why she hired you. You should have sole access. The creator is not to use any of the accounts associated with this agreement outside of explicit instruction from the agency for the duration of this agreement. This is just reinforcing that first sentence. Again, like, the model doesn't need to have access or visibility into everything. Something to keep in mind. Just, this is, for some reason, like, the more that you leave in the model's hands, I generally think the worse things are going to go. So take on as much responsibility as you can. For the third time, it makes your offer stickier. It makes the models less likely to leave. You're providing an actual service rather than just being like, yeah, we'll handle chatting. You do the rest. Like, you seem like you're doing fine on your own. That's not why she hired you. And if you're an agency that handles your models that way, you don't use this contract because your creators should leave you. Sorry. Everything else here is pretty standard boilerplate. Again, you're just going to enter your name, title, email. If the creator has an LLC, rather than like just signing as an individual, make sure that the LLC is here. That's going to be important for business to business payments. And you just want to make sure that that's stated contractually. So she'll do he or she, I've been saying she this entire time, but I know there's male creators out there and trans creators. They, I promise I'm not a they, them person. They should include their actual name and then their business name. Both of them should be in the contract. The same is going to apply to the subsection down here of Addendum. Now we're on to Addendum B. This is the fun part. Payment. Yay. Everybody makes money. Yay. The CA, or compensation agreement, supplementary to the talent management agreement, signed on the same day. This is the same language that's used in Addendum A that basically just says, like, this is a separate but part of the whole binding document. It's just as valid as every other part of the agreement. Just like a reminder thing. I don't know. Legal stuff, law stuff. This document contains all details regarding payments between the agency and the creator. Section 1 is banking information. The agency offers 2 options for bank accounts connected to the OnlyFans accounts associated with the creator. This is an important one. This is determining how you get paid. So personally, and this is not something that every agency is going to be able to do, I actually have access to my creators' bank accounts. It's not like a weird control thing. It's just another, like, my creators trust me enough to give me access to their bank accounts. The OnlyFans payments go into their bank account, and then every week I send myself a wire transfer, an ACH, or whatever makes the most sense in the context of the business relationship. I just send it from their account to my business bank account. Like, I understand not every agency is going to have that opportunity. And so this is structured, like, I might be the only agency that does that. But this is structured for more normal payment agreements. One thing that I will say, you're going to have different language in here if you're working with international models and you're using like Paxum or Skrill. I only work with US based models. So thankfully I only ever deal with like ACH wire transfer. Maybe sometimes Zelle if I have that's never actually happened. I'm not even sure why I said that, but, if you have an international model and you're paying with crypto or something, make sure that's outlined in the agreement. But it's not covered in either of these because I don't understand the nuances of those payment agreements. So make sure that if that's what you do, it's covered in your version of this contract if you use this contract. But I have 2 options here. The creator will connect their own personal or LLC bank account to the OnlyFans account that is associated with the creator. The agency will invoice the creator for an amount equal to the terms established in Section 2 every 7 days from the effective date established in the attached talent management agreement. So basically this is saying the creator gets the funds from OnlyFans and then they pay the agency. And then B is predictably the inverse, which is the agency will connect their corporate bank account to an OnlyFans account associated with the creator. The agency will pay the creator an amount equal to the terms established in Section 2. So in this case, your agency's bank account is what's getting the payouts from OnlyFans, and you pay the creator. So option A, very simple. Not even really worth reading these. I should have just said this from the get-go. Option A, the creator gets the payouts from OnlyFans and pays you. Option B, you get the payouts from OnlyFans, you pay the creator. I generally tend to prefer anything that gives the agency a little bit more control, but not every model is going to want that. That's why there's two options. And then finally, the revenue share agreement. The agency shall be paid. This is modular. This is going to change from agency to agency. This is the basic version of it that I have. I've never seen another agency do this. I think more agencies should do this. So I'm going to go through this, but it's performance based. So my default contract is the agency shall be paid 50% of the creator's net revenue each month, as shown by the statements generated by the OnlyFans platform. Very simple. Just a standard 50-50 split. But 2.2, in months where the creator's net revenue exceeds $100,000, defined as target. This target can be whatever you want. I choose 100K because I like to make my creators life-changing money. And I want to be rewarded for making my creators life-changing money. So $100,000 is defined as my target. You can make the target whatever you want. A bonus of 1% of net revenue per $10,000 over target shall be paid to the agency. And then I've included an example here just to make it really clear. For example, if net revenue is $110,000, the agency shall be paid 51% of net revenue. This amount shall not exceed 65% of net revenue. So basically the way that the contract is structured, this is just my personal preference. You don't have to do it this way. You can have a standard split or whatever. But I really like this, and I think that the models like it too, because it basically says we enter this agreement as partners, 50-50. You're doing your share of the work. I'm doing my share of the work. But naturally, over time, I'm going to take on more risk. I'm going to spend more money. I'm going to hire services and contractors and employees and build a creative team around you. And so over the long run, if I deliver the results that I tell you that I'm going to deliver, I deserve a bigger cut. And I think that's totally fair. Certainly none of the models that I work with have disagreed. They're all very, very happy because at the end of the day, if you're making somebody a millionaire, you're worth it. Like you're worth the extra 15% in this case. However you want to set it up. But yeah, these numbers are all modular. Make it work for your agency. But just a thought, like give yourself a performance bonus. If you deliver the results that you promise that you're going to deliver the model, you should be rewarded for that, I think. And I think most reasonable people would agree. That is the contract in a nutshell. If you want to just straight up use this contract for your agency, all you have to do is click the link that just popped up on the screen. Or if I was too stupid to figure out how to make a link pop up on the screen on YouTube, the link will also be in the description. Either way, click it, sign up for my email list. I just started this email list. You'll get the contract for free. So you get a PDF of the contract for free. And then I also periodically send out essays and insights and just generally useful information for OnlyFans management, and special deals on products that Milky and our partners develop. While you're at it, if you like this format, this more kind of conversational, like me just going over stuff that I use in my day-to-day, like and subscribe. If you like the content at all, just like and subscribe. Most of my content is a lot more polished than this, but this was such an important message. This is something that's super prevalent in the industry. I just wanted to get it out as quickly as possible because I'm really tired of seeing good agencies lose models to something that is so easy to fix. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.